Well, hello, my friends. Blessing and peace on you in the mighty name of King Jesus. Welcome, guys, to a very, very, very special and different edition of the Open Door Experience. I'm Troy Brewer, and I'm a senior pastor out at Open Door Church in Burleson, Texas. And maybe you know that we rescue boys and girls all over the planet. Maybe you've seen me on, I don't know, some form of media, or maybe you've even read one of my books. But did you know that for more than 16 years, we were a church of less than 100 people in it? Did you know that for 20 years, we struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled, and we went through some very, very, very difficult things, knowing that God had a promise? Did you know that we actually had to mortgage our house 7 different times to begin to build our orphanages? Or maybe, did you know that I was kidnapped in the nation of India? Or any of those crazy things, all the things that we've been through here over the past 30 years and doing next level missions across the world. As on today's edition, we're actually starting the 3rd season today of the Open Door Experience. And I got together with my team and I just said, hey, let's tell everybody our history and let's tell everybody what they're actually a part of. And listen, you're gonna love this, my friend. It's an interview with me and my beautiful bride, Leanna Brewer, and we're talking about the history and God's amazing faithfulness. You're gonna love this. This is the Open Door Experience.
Well, you know what? You might see our glory, but you don't know our story. Every single person that, if you see them in a super good light, those are people who have gone through some amazing things to get there. One of the things that you find out is that God Almighty is faithful. Every week, whenever we bring you the Open Door Experience, I always want to just bring like my pulpit teaching from this very stage, right? I'm actually on the stage here at Open Door Church, but today I want to tell you that we have an origin, and we were born breech, and it's crazy what the Lord has done with us and for us and through us. Man, you're gonna love this. Welcome, my friends, to the Open Door Experience. There's no way that you can tell my story or the story of our church or the ministry that we're doing without telling the story of Leanna Brewer. She's been my bride now for 32 years. She's my best friend in the whole wide world, and she's with me here today. Hello, Leanna.
Well, thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I call you blessed.
Thank you.
So we're here over the next few minutes. We want to kind of just tell everybody where it is we come from, what it is that motivates us, why we do what we do. And it's a crazy story, isn't it?
It's a crazy story. It's a good story, but it's a crazy one.
I was from Johnson County, Texas.
Boy, you were.
You were from East LA.
I was.
We met in 1986.
You know, God just didn't have enough humor going on in his life. He just thought, well, this would be a really fun combination.
Man,
You were a little bit country and I was a little bit rock and roll.
That's absolutely true.
Yep.
It is absolutely true. As a matter of fact, the first time you ever saw me, I was wearing overalls and I had boots all the way up to my knees. And it was actually my great-grandfather's overalls.
Yes.
It wasn't just my grandpa's, it was my great-grandpa's
they
overalls.
were old overalls.
Yeah, they were like 100 years old. And anyway, God bless you for sticking with me. But bottom line is, I got saved in May of 1986. And as soon as I did, I quit all of my bands and I immediately joined a Christian rock band.
Yeah.
And the very first practice we ever had was at a high school graduation, because they were using our PA system, and it happened to be your high school graduation.
My graduation.
I had just graduated high school the year before, and I saw you walk across the stage, and I asked the boy sitting next to me, who is that girl right there? And he's like, which one? And I said, that girl right there, who is that? And he said, well, her name's Leanna. And I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna throw her over my shoulder and I'm gonna haul her off and marry her. And he didn't say anything. He just kind of looked at me and he just got up and left. He came back with the band, who I had not yet practiced with. And they're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, what? Well, what's happening? And they're like, hey, you can't be talking about our girlfriends. That was actually one of your boyfriends or one of your old boyfriends that I was saying that to. I had no idea that I was talking about his girlfriend. And so I told him, I said, look, man, you're not going to have any problem out of me, but know this, she's going to get to know me, and she's going to walk away from you, pal, and I'm going to haul her off and marry her, and that's what I'm going to do. And I started busting out laughing. And I told him, I said, I'll bet you $5 I end up marrying her. I never spoke to you one time. And I knew the second I saw you, that's going to be my wife. I knew it. And so he said, okay, I'll bet you $5. And 4 years later, right in front of you on our wedding day,
Yes.
he walked up to me and he gave me $5.
Right.
And you said, what's that all about? And we went, we'll tell you later. But really and truly what had happened was he introduced me the night that I saw you for the very first time. You came over and you were talking to him because you were about to move back to Los Angeles.
I was leaving the next day.
Oh my gosh. And you were over there talking to him, and I walked up and he said, you need to meet your future husband. And that was how he introduced us.
Both of you were prophets and you didn't know it.
Well, he lost that $5.
He did.
Dang Skippy. Now, we're not endorsing gambling. Just,
but you can always bet on God. There you go.
you can bet on God.
Yep.
You dang Skippy. So we got married in '89.
Yeah.
I was already a pro musician. I'd been a pro musician since I was a kid. We've been playing in bands. My daddy was a very pro musician. My brother is a pro musician. And I've been playing in bands all my life. I was in a Christian rock band. And we started having babies, and as soon as we started having babies, I was playing a whole lot more. And one of the things that we found was that we really loved doing food outreaches.
Yes.
We loved playing food outreaches, and we loved feeding people, and we loved doing that. So you and I decided one day, because your dad called us, and do you remember what he told us was happening, and do you remember what he told me to do?
He did, yeah. He called you, and he loved to call you the Yank. And he called and he said, let me talk to the Yank. And I said, okay. And you got on the phone, and at that time, I guess you thought you just needed to impress him. And
I was young.
Yes, and he said he was roofing a lady's house, and he needed you to come help him. And so you said, yes, sir. And you went over there to help him. And not that it would have mattered to him, but he didn't know you were afraid of heights. He still would have asked you to do it. But you got up there and you helped him. We drove up there, and there was an old man sitting on top of the roof, and he took up one shingle a day. And he was going to roof that roof one shingle a day.
He would risk his life
could
climbing that. And this dude was in his 80s.
And it's so hot
And
here
it's
in
so
Texas
hot.
in the summer. And it was
he'd
in the
get up
middle
there
of
and nail down
summer.
one shingle and rest, and then spend the rest of the day trying to get back down. He's like, well, it'll take me a year or two, but I will get my roof done.
Yeah.
So I threw a couple of bundles over my shoulder, climbed up there, started hammering away. That old man didn't say one word to me. He just sat there. He had a big old rag on top of his head. He just stood there. He just sat there with his mouth open. Directly, your daddy came, your brothers came, and we all just roofed that old man's roof.
Right.
And whenever we got done, I said, well, sir, you got a brand new roof. How about them apples? And he said, well, this ain't my roof. It's my girlfriend's.
Yes.
And I'm like, really? And it's like, yes. And he said, she's going to want to meet y'all. Let's go down there and go meet her. And so get him down the ladder, and that was a big deal. And so we went in the house. She wanted to fix us some lemonade. And she went over, opened up her refrigerator door, and you saw what?
There was nothing. There was, it was so sad. There was nothing.
There was no food inside her refrigerator whatsoever. And so you said, Troy, you stay here and drink lemonade with this old lady. I'm going to go down to Kroger and I'm going to go buy some food. And I'm like, please don't leave me here. No, I was very young, okay? Please don't leave me here. Please, please. You're like, no, I'll be back in a little while. So you come back about an hour later, and you just fill up her entire refrigerator full of food, milk and eggs and, I don't know, all kinds of meat and cheese and all kinds of good stuff. And then you filled up all of her cabinets and all this kind of stuff. And this old lady was just crying.
And it was me and the 4 kids.
Yep.
We had 4 little guys with us.
Yep.
Doing all this. Yeah.
And the old man was standing over there, and he said, well, what about me? I'm like, well, what about you? And he goes, I'm poorer than this old lady. Why didn't you guys buy me any groceries? Like, well, okay, so we'll take you down too. So we started walking him out to the car to take him to the grocery store. And he said, I got another girlfriend who lives across the street, and she's a lot poorer than this old woman is, and we need to go get her. And I'm like, okay. So we go across, knock on the door, come out. He tells her the deal, and she said, well, I share all my food with the lady that lives behind me, and we need to take her too. And I was like, okay.
Right.
And again, we were in, I don't know how old I was. I was probably 26, maybe, I don't even know if I was that old.
Yeah, let's see.
But
You were in your late 20s.
Yeah, so, we started the church whenever I was 29, and this was way before we started. This is 5 years before that. So, yeah. So I'm like, well, okay, so I'll tell you what, we'll just come back on Saturday and bring a whole bunch of groceries. Whole bunch. and I'll bring my wife and I'll bring my kids. And if you have any friends that need help, come over. I said, okay. So we came over on Saturday morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. The whole back end of my pickup truck was loaded up with groceries.
Yeah.
And there was a crowd of old people of elderly people in that yard. I mean, it looked like, a Gaithers concert. It looked like the Shriner convention. I had never seen it. Like, oh my gosh! I remember whenever we saw it, I was like, "What?" I was like, anyway, there were 71 people there.
There was
71 hurting, World War II generation, isolated elderly people that they didn't have anybody in the world to help them, and that's how God gave us a ministry.
It is.
So we got committed to every single Saturday taking groceries to all 71 homes. And I took you with me and took all the kids, and we'd start early in the morning and we'd end late at night. And it didn't take us very long. We knew we had to build a food bank because we couldn't afford to buy all that food. And so Brewer Ministries in Fort Worth, Texas was very instrumental in helping us.
Yes, they sure were.
And they showed us how to build a food bank and what to do and how to do it and how to partner with food ministries. And we started doing that. And everything that we do through Open Door Church, all of our television ministry, all of our radio ministry, all of our orphanages all over the world, rescuing babies all over the world, rescuing boys and girls and young women and young men out of sexual trafficking. All the work, our 13 leprosy colonies that we have in the nation of India, 13 leprosy colonies. All of our cerebral palsy clinic, all of our medical clinics, all of the things that we do all over the world, it started by roofing that old man's roof.
It sure did.
And within 24 hours, we had a ministry that is still going today. And we ended up calling it Open Door. We didn't start the church until 5 years later in 1989. And no, not 1989. It was 1995 is whenever we started the church. And you know what, man? I didn't know what to name the church. So I opened up the book of Revelation, and I looked in Revelation chapter 3. I'm going through Revelation chapter 2 and chapter 3, and I get to the Church of Philadelphia, and I looked at all 7 of those churches and went, who's the one that we want to be like? And it was the Church of Philadelphia, the church that actually loves people, the church of brotherly love.
Right.
And then Jesus says to them, he says, I bring you the key of David, and behold, I have set before you an open door that no man can shut. And so we decided to call this whole thing Open Door.
Yeah.
So here we are, literally 30 years later, fixing to be 31 years later.
It's so crazy.
From when we first started this.
Yeah.
31 years. And now we have Brewer Ministries. And we've been saving boys and girls out of sexual trafficking all of our lives, but we've just been doing it randomly. And a few years ago, actually in 2016, we decided to form a ministry that just does that.
Right.
And it was a big step for us, wasn't it?
Sure was. Sure was, because it was one more thing.
It was one more thing.
On top of, because when we do the food outreaches, which is what we've always done, we do it in every part of our ministry.
Yes.
In all of our missions trips, it's a food outreach.
Yep.
We have food banks all around the world. We have food banks everywhere. So food ministry is still our number one thing, which is how we came into finding these
all
kids.
Of the countries, all the countries that we're involved in, we first started doing food banks there.
And continue to.
And as you're feeding people, you come across people and you begin to build relationships with them, and you find out that they're enslaved by somebody else. Or in going into trash dumps, feeding everybody, and people seeing that I was a middle-aged white American man, they were thinking I was a sexual tourist.
Which we didn't even know what that was.
I didn't know what a sexual tourist was.
We had no idea what that was.
But I fit the profile of a sexual tourist, because there are so many middle-aged Caucasian Americans traveling the entire world, going to third world countries and molesting children, paying money in order to molest children. They just assumed that was what I was, and so they started bringing me kids, and I started paying attention. Like, yes, I'll take those kids right now, right this second. I'll take them. And we work out some kind of a deal with them, and then leave them in a car and say, you're going to remember this day for the rest of your life. Jesus loves you so much. He sent me and Leanna from the other side of the world to come over here and to rescue you.
Yeah.
We're going to put you in a home. We're going to take care of you. Nobody's ever going to hurt you again. And we did that randomly for years and years, and we have so many cool stories about all that. But in 2016, we said, let's start Troy Brewer Ministries, and let's do that. And my goal was to rescue 16 boys and girls, 16 young girls in 2016. And as soon as we did it, as soon as I told all of our teams all over the world, you know what, I want y'all to start looking for this. I want you to get smart about it. I'm going to find the funding for it, and we're going to make this happen. Let's rescue these kids. Let's build facilities. Let's house them. Let's protect them. Let's do this. They went crazy.
Yeah, they did.
And in 2016, we didn't rescue 16. We rescued 118 in 1 year. Then the second year, it was way more than twice that. The third year, it was way more than twice that. And here we are in 2021, and already just at the 6-month part, we'd already rescued more than 1,500 kids. Just in 6 months. So now our phone is ringing off the hook of, we've got all these kids, we got all these boys, we got all these girls, they need medical attention, they need this, they need that, and we're just saying yes to everything. And we're believing in the power of partnership.
Yes, you know, we all have our part, and people will say, well, I wish I could do that. You can. You can. By partnering with us and partnering with this ministry, you're part of it. You get to do it. It's not just because we're the spokespeople for it, we get to do it all. No, it takes all of us.
It does.
You know, it takes everybody doing your part.
We know what we were able to do by ourselves because we did it by ourselves.
We did.
But it's not this.
No, nothing even close.
Nothing even close.
And we don't want to do it by ourselves.
No, we don't.
We don't.
We don't.
It's a family, you know, the kingdom is family. And Jesus has invited all of us into the family business. You know, when he came, he said, I'm about my Father's business.
That's right.
And then he said, I want you guys to do what I'm doing and even more. And it's because there's more of us. We can do more. And yeah, it's a family business.
If you're somebody that watches me preach every week on the Open Door Experience, and you're like, wow, okay, you know what, man, that brother's a preacher, and man, I love his church and love their ministry and love what they're doing. Behind the scenes, guys, we're doing so much more. I mean, it's really hard for us to explain the difference we are making. If you're partnering with me, if you are partnering with me at Troy Brewer Ministries, you're one of these world changers that's literally breaking the chains off of other human beings.
Okay, so those are amazing testimonies, right? Well, these are all true stories, and this is what God is doing among us. And you know what? Help me get the good news out. Become a media missionary like this, share this, subscribe to this, comment on it, and then also hit the little, I don't know, that little bell button on there, right? God bless you so much.